Hey, good evening, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery. Kind of become a tradition, hasn't it? Every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, we get together and we talk about the great outdoors. Coming up here sometime within the next 3 weeks or so, we're going to do a Wednesday Night Live out on Saginaw Bay with Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuis. Cliff, good evening. You made it in first tonight, didn't you, buddy? Hello, Paul. How are you? Larry, nice to have you along with us. The holidays got you this morning today. Jerry's with us tonight. Jim checking in from Tennessee. I appreciate you joining us, my friends. And you know what's coming up tonight, don't you? Tonight we're going to be talking with, in my opinion, one of the most powerful and influential people in the Michigan outdoors, Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC. She's going to be coming on here in just a couple of minutes. TJ, good evening, buddy. How are you? Craig, I look forward to... Craig, did you get the buy-in from your crew? Are we going with Lance on June 12th? Hello, Linda. How are you this evening? Steve's sitting there reloading and having a cold one. Hello, Ken. How are you? Nice to have you along with us. Bob, always a pleasure. Tom, good evening. Hello, Jeff. Hello, Paul. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight with Amy Trotter, Executive Director of MUCC. Before we get to her, though, I just want to bring up this graphic. Friday, July 25th, at the West Branch Country Club, the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. We had a wonderful event last year. I fully expect to sell out to fill the field this year with 144 golfers. I'm not going to lie to you and say we're almost filled up, hurry up and sign up. That's not the case. But entries are coming in very well. We will fill up, I'm quite sure. So I suggest if you want to be a part of this, go to mucc.org/golf, mucc.org/golf to sign up to be a part of this. All of the money, and Amy will talk about this here in a couple of minutes, all of the money will go towards getting kids involved in the outdoors. How cool is that, right? I can't think of a better charity to get involved with, a better project to get involved with. Let's see what the comments are here. Tom, good evening. Jeff, good evening. Paul, good evening. Hello, Tim. How you doing tonight? Jeff, happy Wednesday to you. Amy is on once a quarter. Now, she was actually supposed to be on 2 weeks ago. I screwed up. It kind of slipped through the cracks, but we're set now for 3 more times this year. John, good evening. How are you? Craig says, prefer the 12th, but the 10th will work. I actually had Lance put the 12th on his books, so we are good to go with Lance out of Linwood Beach Marina on the 12th. Dennis, good evening. How are you? Hello, Michelle. Otto, always a pleasure. Tony, fellow skinny water rat, how you doing, brother? Northeast wind is killing the fishing. I know it. These northeast winds are absolutely ridiculous this spring so far. Bernie's been seeing a lot of fawns. Make sure you pick them up, Bernie, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do when you see a fawn, right? Oh, they're so cute and cuddly. The doe must have abandoned them. So you should pick up every fawn you see and you should bring it home and you should try to nurse it into adulthood, which would be completely illegal and, in my mind, unethical too. Linda, any way to get a copy of that flyer? Linda, if you send me your email address, email me, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and then I'll have your email address. I can email the electronic version back to you, and you could print it out. That's a great idea. Love to have you do that. Mike, good evening. Stephen reminds us, don't forget about the West Side charity shoot at the Caledonia Sportsman's Club in 2 weeks. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Oh, Paul, get out of here. Wind chill of 94 in Florida. Go away. Just kidding. Ed Rutherford, nice talking to you. He will be on the show this week. It's on the MUCC website. Dan, good evening. It was beautiful. All right, my friends. Okay, so you know that I have partnered with MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. And when it first started, if I remember right, I reached out to them because I'm a fan of what they're doing. I think they do great work. I can't keep track of everything that's going on in Lansing, but they do. So for me, they are a tremendous resource, for one thing. I think they're extraordinarily strong advocates for the outdoor lifestyle here in Michigan. And they become friends of mine too. So, it's a win-win-win all the way around. Dan, good evening. Uncle Johnny, how are you? Okay. Um, Mike Smith, offshore account. If you need some hand getting people out while you wait for your boat, I can probably help you out. I do appreciate that, Mike. As I say, my boat will be here now in 2 weeks, which means I got to put a few hours on the motor before I can actually troll with it. So I am jammed up tremendously, but I just booked a trip with Lance Valentine because I wanted to keep everybody on an angler quest because that's part of the deal. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. And I can't wait to see how you guys do tomorrow. Send me pictures. I'm fascinated by this using the live scope and casting. Okay, so I have partnered with MUCC. The people at MUCC are top tier, top quality. There aren't that many of them, and they work very hard. And this lady right here is one of them. Her name is Amy Trotter. She is the executive director of MUCC, and I know, folks, you love to see her here on Wednesday Night Live. Amy, how are you? Welcome once again.
Doing great. Good evening, everyone.
Always a pleasure. How is your late spring, early unofficial summer going?
Pretty well. I've spent an awful lot of time at the ball fields and the soccer fields and the lacrosse fields and the track meets, but we did start out fishing a few times, so bow fishing actually, and I finally kind of broke my drought and got a dogfish this weekend. So I was pretty excited about that, getting back out on the water.
Oh, that is so cool. Amy, you not only preach the outdoor lifestyle, you and your family live the outdoor lifestyle.
Absolutely, absolutely. We actually had a great event, family operation. My little second grader, they did Pioneer Days at their elementary school, and all the second grades, so four classes of second graders, were learning how to churn butter and, haul water and do laundry. And we actually, as a family, got to teach the trapping session.
Oh,
So my
nice.
husband and I, my sixth grader, all came together. We did this field trip for the second graders of Hazlitt. It was a blast. We had so much fun. I got to touch all the got to play with the traps and rave reviews from all of the kids. We got a pile of thank yous. It was so great. And I encourage everybody to, take that opportunity. I'll have a little column about it in our next Michigan Out of Doors magazine. But it was an opportunity to really kind of give back to the community and share what we love.
Excellent, excellent. Here is one of your, what do you call him? Field staff people, John Dirtka, who I say is a perfect example of what getting involved looks like. In my opinion, John Dirtka single handedly, with the help of MUCC, and got the DNR and everybody to back him, and he's now got spearfishing to be a thing in Michigan. Isn't he a great example of how people can get things done if they want to, Amy?
Exactly. You got to be a member in order to work that policy process. And he took that on and he came to convention. And we now have a policy resolution to support expanding the opportunities for spearfishing here in Michigan.
You have now been called a celebrity by Paul Eisen.
Well,
and your
I'm
mom's
happy to sell my signature to anyone.
and your mom's probably on here somewhere tonight, and she's thinking the same thing. Oh, all right, Amy. I'm going to throw it out to you. From your perspective there in Lansing, what's on your radar right now? What are you looking at? What has you concerned? What are you happy with?
The legislature's kind of on pause for a minute. They haven't done a lot of things yet, but the most exciting sort of movement we've seen is the Hunter Safety in Schools bill that did pass out of House committee with no votes. So, further proof that conservation is bipartisan, and that is great movement to see that move along. We have really tried to help people from both sides of the aisle understand that hunter safety is, even if someone never becomes a hunter, it's great for firearm safety and it's great for the general public to help them understand the lengths we go to learn about how we, affect the outdoors and how we recreate in the outdoors. So we want to make sure that kids are having the opportunity. And this isn't a mandate. This doesn't make your school district have a program in your schools, but it certainly gives them an option to fit it in within the curriculum.
the goal is not necessarily to make everybody a hunter and angler, although we would love that. But the goal is to get the people who don't follow our lifestyle to at least acknowledge what we do and accept what we do and support us, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And once kids have that opportunity to take the class, that's just one barrier down. Now, if a friend's dad wanted to take them out or, a family member, they have that opportunity right away and they don't have to then go find a class in the evenings when they're competing with all the sports and everything else. It's getting it done during the school day and kind of checking the box and moving on. So we're trying to reduce those barriers, but also, yes, if you never go hunting again, having that basic firearm safety, because there's a lot of kids that are not exposed at all. And we don't believe that, that lack of education is good for society either.
Linda has a comment. In fact, Linda will be joining us Friday, July 25th in West Branch for the golf outing. She says, glad to see Grayling coming back. What are the plans for future plants? MUCC have any thoughts on this, Amy? I know you're not exactly the organization. MUCC is not usually involved at that level, but do you have any thoughts at all?
I think, funding is always going to be really the barrier for that. Right now, the DNR is working off of hunting and fishing license fees. That now the grayling stocking was supported by a lot of private individuals, private companies, foundations, as well as the tribes. So if those other resources can kind of keep up with their end of the bargain, then maybe there's an opportunity for expansion. But I think we do need to kind of make sure that it's successful before we go on and expand it. But I certainly do know that it's going to have to be a partnership opportunity because the DNR just simply doesn't have extra funding for those kinds of new initiatives.
Paul asked a question about a $1 state, $1 tag. I just want to make sure people realize you, Amy Trotter, are executive director of MUCC. MUCC is not DNR. You guys don't directly make policy, but still, I know you have thoughts on such things. What about this one?
This has been, bantered about, it's been surveyed on, it's been talked about for a really long time. And the trouble with deer hunting in Michigan is deer hunters are about 50-50 on everything. So is it going to help? Maybe not. It depends on what your goals are. If you're trying to limit take, then yeah, it will reduce the take of some antlered deer, but it isn't necessarily that silver bullet that's going to create bigger bucks either. So that's where I think there's a lot of opportunities. There's a spectrum of options out there. It's not the only one. And, honestly, I was served on the deer advisory team, and MUCC doesn't have necessarily a position, but there was a lot of talk about earn a second buck as a different opportunity, and that might have more legs than $1. I'm not sure, but certainly there's a lot of talk about all of the spectrum of options out there, and ultimately it's going to come down to the Natural Resources Commission asking for a lot of questions and a lot of data from the DNR and making a decision to change.
You brought up NRC before I had a chance, the Natural Resources Commission. Your thoughts on the current makeup of the commission and their effectiveness?
Well, for one, there is a vacancy. So I want to make sure that people understand there is yet another vacancy. So former Congressman Dan Kildee has stepped down. Becky Humphreys, former DNR director, has moved into the role as chair. So, you know, all
When,
these things are moving about, and that's all just happened.
when did Kildee step down?
Uh, I guess it was this month. so, so that all just happened, and so we have another vacancy. Now, of course, the governor is a Democrat, and as it would be expected, she wants to appoint another Democrat to replace Dan Kildee. But we are actively looking for people who are interested and would be qualified and maybe fit the governor's criteria, but also ones that we could vet and understand where they're coming from and that they are sportsmen and that maybe they do a little bit of everything. That's really what we're looking for, is someone that has an understanding of the sportsmen and women of Michigan, their desires, can speak the language of the DNR, can understand the science, or at least know enough to ask a lot of good questions. So we are actively looking for someone to fill that vacancy.
Justin Tomei. Kildee stepped down about a month ago, question mark, a week or two before the May meeting. Chair Humphreys was made. Justin is your
Yeah, it's
policy guy.
breaking news right now, huh?
Wow. Well, it is to me. Honestly, I did not know that. He
Yeah,
stepped down
yeah.
about a month ago. I thought you guys were supposed to keep me informed here. What's going on, Amy?
It moves so fast sometimes.
Well, that is very, very. I mean, honestly, I'm still stammering over this one. I didn't realize that. I do, looking at it from the outside. I've known Becky Humphreys since she was a field biologist at the Gratiot Saginaw game area, so she is certainly well qualified with her background and her knowledge of outdoor issues.
Absolutely. I think she does have a lot of good background. We want to make sure that, again, she is working off of the best available data and not, old information, which she does her homework. I trust her to do that. But, it will be interesting seeing someone chair the commission that has such a breadth of experience.
I just got Tim says it's probably during my nap. Hey, come on, man. Scott Gatson, my buddy, just texted me. Scott is a very active and avid and knowledgeable outdoorsman here in Michigan. His text to me is, can a sportsman like me, Scott Gatza, throw his name in the ring for the NRC Commission?
Absolutely. Anyone can apply. It's a simple application. You post a resume, but it does get vetted by the governor's office. So they're going to go through kind of your public profile, your social media, all of the things where you may have given money or, if that's a public record. All of those things are going to be vetted. Obviously, your fish and game violations as well. So, they're going to do the gamut of that kind of public profile to before they would even ever give you a call, probably. So we do know that she is likely looking for a Democrat again to replace Dan Kildee, who was a Democrat as well.
I can't wait to hear the story behind the story here, but I won't ask you this on a live stream. All right, let's talk about funding for the DNR. That's a big question. There are some options out there these days. Your thoughts, Amy?
So yeah, there is a pair of bills that have been dropped, Senate Bills 276 and 277. That just happened again, just this month. It is very different than the previous proposal of the license fee package from last year. So I'll start with that. This is not a DNR proposal. It really is a bipartisan opportunity of two senators that have come together from both sides of the aisle who are hunters who want to see the department, the fish and wildlife, the habitats, the stocking funded now and into the future. And, again, hunting and fishing licenses are still only one portion of the pie. If there are other ideas out there, then let's talk about them. But this seemed to be the most feasible, I guess, and it was part of the governor's recommendation in her budget. However, this is not her proposal. This is really two senators coming together and looking at what they think is, a more reasonable proposal perhaps than the one that was introduced last fall.
And I do know too. There's an angling group that is looking at that side of the issue only. But I know you folks at MUC say, look, CC say you don't really want to approach this piecemeal. You want one comprehensive overall package to address everything. Correct?
Well, that is true. Unfortunately, and again, that's politics more than anything. It's, what is easy should be, not contingent on anything else, but if it's good public policy, but that's not always how it works. We believe that we probably only get one bite at this. And so if we move on the fishing thing, we probably would lose all the wildlife funding out of the package. So we do want them to move in concert, but I think there's a lot of good ideas from that fishing group that I think can be incorporated in. And it sounded like the senators are pretty willing to do so. We just need to kind of understand what those ideas are and see if they're reasonable enough to incorporate.
Going back to NRC, we've got a couple of people on tonight who say, look, if they would seriously be interested. Justin I'll go back to Justin's comment about you guys have an internal policy to solicit and vet candidates. So if somebody is serious about this, Amy, how do they reach out to you guys at MUCC and say, "Look, I want to throw my name in the hat"?
Certainly, email, myself is fine, a trotter at mucc.org, or Justin, he'll give you his in the comments as well. But that's the first step, and then filling out the online form is really as simple as it is. But again, talking with us, giving us a chance to maybe get to know you a little bit better, see what other kinds of groups or other affiliations you might have. Letters of support are always good, I think, to the governor's office if you can gather a couple of those. And it doesn't always have to be from a sportsman's group or a conservation group. If you're a member of a trades union and you're a leader in that kind of organization, that is another great opportunity to show your kind of engagement, your leadership, things you've been involved in, whether it was in conservation or not, because those skills, running a meeting and knowing Robert's Rules of Order, really apply elsewhere. And if you have the passion for the outdoors, you don't have to have a degree, but you do need to understand that it is a public body, it's civil service, it is not paid, it is volunteer. And frankly, I think that's maybe sometimes why we have some of these short terms of commissioners, is it's a little more work than they planned for.
And there's oftentimes in today's world a lot of public attention and heat on their decisions these days.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. They only meet once a month, but they get emails every day for sure.
By the way, there's Justin. There's Justin's email right there, jtomei at mucc.org. I want to go back to a comment here from John. What's a good way to get involved short of NRC? And I'll lead you into this, Amy, because I think I know what the answer is going to be. Get involved. Join your local groups. Join MUCC. You folks are putting a big push on right now for membership. I saw this at convention a couple of months ago. There's strength in numbers.
Absolutely. And honestly, those memberships and donations are the lifeblood of our organization. We're a nonprofit. We get a few grants, but for the most part, we raise our budget in $35 increments because that's all it costs to be a member of MUCC. So join and support MUCC is one great way to support what we're doing and get involved, because through your membership, then you do have a voice in these kinds of decisions that we're making. But absolutely, become a member, join, support your local clubs as well, and get involved there. It does really take, a team effort here to make the wheels on the bus go round.
Comment from a long time MUCC member, George Lindquist.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, we do need more funding for our natural resources, because if you think about it, the last adjustment they got was 11 years ago. And again, if you have a different idea for another revenue source, fine, but the cost of fish food has doubled, tripled, quadrupled in that time. And so stocking programs are at risk if we, can't figure out a funding system that is sustainable for the long haul.
In certain circles, in many circles in Michigan these days, it is cool to hate the DNR and everything about them. I don't. I don't buy into that. I don't. I mean, I understand part of it, but I can't accept the overall premise. I look at what I pay, even before I paid a senior rate for my hunting and fishing licenses. I think they're a tremendous deal. I mean, if you are committed to the lifestyle, there's no better deal out there, even if we have to pay more in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and again, I'm not a DNR apologist. They screw up from time to time. The Natural Resources Commission screws up from time to time. I'm not going to say they're perfect, but again, we want our resources to be managed scientifically. We want the best and brightest to work on our behalf directly with the resources, and that takes money. So, again, defunding the Department of Natural Resources, that's an alternative, but then who is going to manage the wildlife, the fisheries, to feed the fish that we want stocked? I mean, it's just pragmatic, I guess, at that point.
And so is running MUCC. I mean, honestly, for $35, I feel again, I feel like I get more than $35 worth out of my membership with you guys too. So I think it's a great deal. I have pushed for membership for the last couple of years because I think there is strength in numbers, and we need to get on the same page. We need to get involved. I know I keep beating the same drum, Amy, and I apologize for it, but I don't really apologize because it's something I believe very strongly in.
I really appreciate that.
Hey, listen, let's talk about something else. Coming up Friday, July 25th, I suspect we'll see you in West Branch.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about youth camp and where this money goes to, because nobody's making any money on this thing. I'm not. You guys, the only money you're making is going all into the youth camp, right?
Our camp is just to be next month. We have
Oh, I'm sorry, but your mic is cutting in and out right now a little bit, Amy, and I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. But I'll ask you the question again. All of this money goes toward the youth camp, right?
absolutely good. Okay. Our youth camp is an awesome, awesome opportunity. It is exactly what our mission does and says. We want to make sure that kids are armed with all of the knowledge and the skills to be future outdoorsmen and women. But even if they only have that one experience, we want them to support to understand it and to really again help us grow the conservation movement here in our state. So every kid's going to get to fish, kayak, shoot 22s, archery. They're going to have a chance to get hunter certified, which again, if you're a busy sports parent, that's a great opportunity to send your kid away from a week and you've already have one of those boxes checked as well. So it's rustic, it's unplugged. Those are things that are really important in today's society, I believe, is giving kids a chance to sort of force them away from the screens for a week. And, it's a great opportunity. I'm a camp mom myself. My daughter is going to be there for her 4th year this year. She already feels like she's got more experience than some of the counselors. But,
And she
she's
probably
looking
does.
forward she's looking forward to be one of those counselors someday. So it's a great opportunity. My 8-year-old is just waiting until next year when she's old enough to stay in the overnight camp as well.
And again, we're raising money for that youth camp through a golf outing in West Branch Friday, July 25th. Go to the website mucc.org/golf to sign up. Jim Ward asked an interesting question. Where does the sale of timber and gas, where does that money go? Timber, gas, and oil, where does it go?
So the sale of timber on state forest lands actually goes into the Forest Development Fund, and that Forest Development Fund is used to fund our state forest system. So it covers all of the, both forest firefighting, prescribed burns, all of the professionals who manage our timber on state lands, but also it helps to combat any kind of invasive species, emerald ash borer, all of these things that are coming down the pike. And then certainly, right now, I know Northern Michigan is dealing with the loss of some major, major forest devastation from the big ice storm. And, the Forest Division, because of that, is actually going to be underfunded, not just this year or next year. This may have an impact of actually 40 years out because they've lost
Oh.
some of their prime timber sooner than it was ready, basically. So they're selling it for a quarter on the dollar, and their funding is going to be devastated because of that. Now, on oil and gas, it depends on where and how the land was purchased as to where it goes. But for the most part, oil and gas revenues are actually, and the royalties are going into the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. And that is a constitutionally protected funds that again rolls back into going back into purchasing new public lands and developing recreational opportunities. So that is, what it was designed to do back in the 70s. It came out of people's opposition to oil and gas on public lands, and we turned that into a real asset for the state of Michigan.
Following up on that, I hear this question all the time. I won't mind paying more for my hunting and fishing license as long as the money stays in the hunting and fishing realm. Where do our license fees go?
So all the license fees goes into the Game and Fish Fund, which again is constitutionally protected. It cannot be used for things outside of the DNR, so it can't be used for roads or education or any number of other things like that. Now within the DNR, it does get divvied up, so a little bit of money goes into marketing and outreach because you have to have a retail sales system to actually sell the licenses. You have to have law enforcement in order to enforce the laws that we support and help create. But the bulk of it does go into fisheries division and wildlife division to help them manage the resource. So they're doing everything from again squeezing fish and doing the science. They're doing the surveys. They're coming up with management plans for those public lands, and then they're working towards implementing them. So whether it's buying trees or seed or all of those other things, that all goes into baking the cake that is the public lands here in Michigan.
Tom brings up a good point. He said he bought all of his licenses and his ORV stuff, and it still cost him less than one fill up of his truck. Interesting perspective. Recreational passport and camping registration fees. I know we're getting a little further in this than I want to.
These again are in restricted accounts too, so they go into the state park endowment fund. They go into the state park improvement fund. There's a lot of ways those funds can be spent, but it's all staying within the recreation realm. So it's going to both state parks, it's going to trail systems, and there are some grants that actually go to local units of government as well to apply to their own recreational needs. So it is broader, that those monies go into something a little bit broader than just the state facilities. They can actually trickle down into the locals as well, which was really part of the deal for actually getting that recreation passport through, is we had to acknowledge that the locals needed that support too. If we were going to be bringing this new source of revenue in, we had to divvy it up to the locals as well. So it stays within recreation, absolutely.
All right, Amy, before I let you go then, so what are your MUCC's priorities for the summer? I know things are usually a little bit slower. We're doing some fundraising now. What are the big things on your agenda for the next few months?
Well, certainly the golf outing in July.
Well,
But
yeah,
if
of
we can't
course.
wait for that, we do actually have a shoot coming up in June in Caledonia. So Caledonia Sportsman's Club is hosting our West Side charity shoot. And then in August, we are having our East Side charity shoot, which also supports camp. And that is going to be at Multi Lakes Conservation Association. So mucc.org/shoot will get you to those fundraisers. And then again, mucc .org/golf to get to the golf fundraiser. So that is really a lot of our focus. We're going to make sure that we have an awesome camp summer, and that we get these 300 plus kids in the outdoors this summer. Again, we're going to be working in Lansing as well. The Natural Resources Commission, of course, it didn't come up actually, so I'll bring it up now, but coyotes is still on our radar. Of course, the coyote season closure, partial closure, happened last year. We are working still to re-implement that. They had to postpone it indefinitely. That was like a procedural move, basically. So they can pull that off the table and vote on it now again in June or a subsequent meeting. We have to make sure that we have the votes there, and we are working towards that end all the time.
I think there's little doubt we're going to end up paying more for our hunting and fishing fees. Obviously, we can't this year. We're locked in this year. Justin told me maybe not even next year. We might not even be looking until 2027 on these, right?
That's correct. Yeah, usually there's always an implementation day. So regardless of when the bill passes, they're going to start it probably at the start of the next license year, which is always a March 1 start date. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that it's not going to jump up in the middle of the night someday, and they're going to show up and learn about this at the retail sales system. So, but again, it's still very amendable. So if there are things in there that people see, or again, alternatives to look at, we're very open to those alternatives. We know that there needs to be a sustainable funding source for our natural resources and for conservation here in Michigan, but we're open to those ideas.
Tyler Mihai of your staff brings up an interesting concept, conservation champions. What is that?
So we actually started a new monthly giving program. So you can sign up and then again, just like Netflix, just like Hulu, just like anything that you're paying a monthly subscription for, give a little bit to conservation each month is what we're asking, and you can be a conservation champion too. So it's a monthly giving program and there's various tiers and there's various benefits for that, but we need sustainable income too. So we talk a lot about our natural resources, but MUCC is really the backbone of the conservation community here in our state, and we need that monthly sustained support as well. So it's not just one time giving, it is sustained monthly. And again, same price as a subscription to a magazine, same price as a subscription to a newspaper or your favorite Hulu, Netflix, or other streaming device. So we want to make sure just to add us into your monthly budget if you could. If start with $5, go to 10. There's benefits for all those levels, but please, consider adding us to your monthly budget.
Excellent. I'm going to let you go, but I'm still thinking about this Kildee Becky Humphreys deal. Oh, I got to give this some more thought. All right, Amy, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I think you do a great job, you and the entire staff at MUCC, mucc.org. And if somebody wants to get involved in the golf outing, mucc.org/golf. All right, Amy, have a good night. We'll let you go.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
All right, see ya. And I got to get rid of Amy. Not get rid of Amy. Amy, goodbye. Hold on, let me get rid of. There we go. There we go. This is what I want to see. The golf outing. mucc.org/golf. mucc.org/golf. Okay, let me ask you something, my friends. How many of you knew that Kildee had resigned and Becky Humphreys was the new acting chairman of the NRC? How many of you knew that? I had no idea. How and occasionally, not unfortunately, more often than I'd like, fairly major things slip through and I'm not aware of them. Did you know? Just Mike says it was all news to him. Justin Tomei knew. Now, why Justin didn't give me a little information, I don't know. Paul says, I think I saw it. I'm sure MUCC put something out about it, but I didn't see it. TJ didn't know. Chris says he knew. Steven said he knew Becky was on the NRC. So did I, because I'd been talking about I think she's going to be a great commissioner. Paul says he did not hear about Kildee. Otto didn't know. Craig says he think he saw it a while back. John says, I did. Okay. So Ted is like, I didn't know. See, Ted lives in this world. He doesn't live in this world, but he's very much involved. He did not know Kildee resigned. I didn't know Kildee resigned. Good. Good. Oh, my goodness. When a lifelong politician got appointed to the NRC as chairman by the governor, I thought, uh-oh, this isn't going to be good. Apparently, he decided, I don't know, I'm going to be talking out of school. I don't know why. Like maybe when Amy said some of these commissioners find out it's more work than what they thought. Maybe that's what this is. But I can't say that I'm heartbroken that he's gone. And Becky Humphreys, I don't pretend to know her well, but I've known her for 35 years, since she was a field biologist. I would think she will do a good job, as long as, like Amy says, as long as Amy says she deals with the current the current information. Justin, and you got to realize Justin is the policy wonk, one of the policy wonks for MUCC. He lives in that world. He says, pro tip, sign up for press releases from the governor. I'm going to tell you something right now, Justin. Nowhere in my world will I ever sign up for news releases from the governor. And in this case, it came back to bite me. Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters in White River, Ontario, Canada. The hunt just started and we have a couple of bears over 350. Wow. 350. I personally have never seen a 350-pound bear. Black bear. That is outstanding. Congrats. Nice job, Ron. I will see you in August. Wow. Linda says, Kildee's exit, divine intervention? Wow. Oh, a big thank you to Executive Director of MUCC, Amy Trotter. Thank you for joining me, Amy. I'd always appreciate it. I talked about the golf outing. Oh, a reminder. If you live in Michigan and you want to apply for a Michigan bear or an elk tag, do it now. You've got through the weekend. No, you've got through Saturday, but do it now. You have through the weekend to get your springtime turkey. May 9th. Wow. Craig, you could have forwarded that to me earlier. Between you and Justin, I thought Justin was my friend. Wow. Okay, and don't forget about the golf outing. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. My first guest this week, Jesse Hurst of Bowfish BAM, the Bow Fishing Association of Michigan. They have a big event in Caseville this weekend. Then Ashley Lister of Security Credit Union. I've never had Ashley on the show before. She's the marketing director for Security Credit Union. I had her on because I wanted to publicly thank her. For many years, they have been big supporters of me, Mike Avery, the Outdoor Magazine radio show, our daily Outdoor Magazine minutes on radio stations across the state. And they just stepped up and became the top dog sponsor for this golf outing right here. They're going to give us a bunch of money for the outing, which will go to MUCC's youth camp. So thank you, Security Credit Union. In my second hour, Joe Bednar talks about pike fishing in Michigan. Then Seth Herbst about the Midwest Walleye Challenge. This week's Ask Avery question. John Upp from River Raisin Ballistics joins me to talk about the status of the 41 Great Lakes. That straight-walled cartridge that performs better ballistically than the 450 Bushmaster or the 350 Legend. And in hour number 3, Captain Ed Rutherford of Northern Lake Huron Trout Scout Charters, probably the longest working or active charter captain on the Great Lakes in Michigan. He's been out there 56 years. And then, of course, we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. All right. Beguiled every fish that you catch, every heart you embrace brings us closer to that means we're going to wrap up this edition of Wednesday Night Live. I'm going to run over to the ball field yet. The game should be just about done by now, if not already done. Have dinner with my family and probably celebrate the win from Midland High softball team. Both of them. My name is Mike Avery. This is Wednesday Night Live. My show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining me, my friends. Thank you, Amy Trotter of MUCC. Talk to you next week.